What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the MKO Pugilism Boxing channel where we talk all things boxing. Like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Last night was a good night of boxing, certainly over here in London, where we had the friends turned enemies in the ring, Joshua Buatsi versus Dan Azeez. That took place last night, and I must say that as a fight, as a spectacle, it was a good watch. It did not disappoint in the slightest. These guys certainly knew how to put their friendship aside, and from the word go, it was quite action packed. There were just a few feeling out rounds in the beginning where both guys were sort of trying to set their shots up. Joshua Buatsi quite upright. Working quite well behind the jab. He was, I would say, Joshua Buatsi in this one was definitely the boss when it came to this fight. He kind of set the tone from early, and I felt that personally, one of the things, not Buatsi, Azeez needed to do was kind of set the tone and disrupt. You could tell from those sort of early rounds that Buatsi was the one who was like that bit more comfortable in the fight. He was a bit more comfortable with the pace and everything, and he kind of set the pace. So you could kind of tell watching it that what Dan Azeez needs to do, which is not easy at all, was to kind of disrupt the pace, to kind of interrupt the work of Joshua Buatsi and try to get inside and kind of make Buatsi work when he takes those breaks, because Buatsi was doing well in the fight. He was bossing most of it. But there were these little gaps in there where he would do some work, he would throw some combinations, and then he would kind of step off, and he would have that breather. He'd have those few seconds there between after he's done some work, and he'd kind of step back, and then there's a moment there. There's kind of a gap there, and I think that's where Dan Azeez probably should have got in there, but Dan Azeez kind of allowed Buatsi to sort of dictate the pace here, and to be, Buatsi was pretty dominant. I commend Buatsi because even he done some of the stuff that you'd think that Thingy should have been doing, that Azeez himself should have been doing, which is going downstairs to the body. Buatsi was very good at going to the body, going downstairs, upstairs, mixing it up, trying to weaken Azeez throughout the fight. It was excellent work from Buatsi. He kind of outdone Dan Azeez, in every department. So that it was impressive. It was impressive. I felt he was still kind of there to be hit. Was Buatsi. That was one flaw of him, that he was still kind of there to be hit and everything. But for the most part, he was the boss in the fight. He was the one in charge. As I say, the pace was his pace. And of the two, I kind of felt going into it that Azeez may have the better engine. I thought Azeez might do the distance better. But I think the amount of the way that Buatsi was quite dominant, landing his combinations, the body, the head, um, you know, boxed so well behind it, a good jab and stuff. And I think the combination of the punches and Azeez just having to work hard just to sort of keep up, I think that contributed to the fatigue of Dan Azeez. So yeah, he Dan Azeez, he put on a brave effort, but as I say, the writing was kind of on the wall from very early in this fight, because the pattern was quite consistent. I mean, there were a few rounds in there where you could say Azeez had some success in the middle rounds, where he interrupted the rhythm and where he punched between Joshua Buatsi's punches, and he nailed him a few times. And there were a few moments in there, a few rounds that you could give him, but the problem he was having was that the overall pattern, the overall everything about this fight was going in Joshua Buatsi's favor. He was the man. He was the dominant one. He was the one man landing most of the punches, and Azeez kind of seemed a step behind all the time. He seemed a step behind with his punches. Sometimes he was looking a bit awkward the way he's kind of throwing those arcing punches, and he just didn't seem to be up to par with Joshua Buatsi. He just didn't seem to be at the races. He didn't seem to have those ideas and that boxing brain to kind of get in the middle and kind of disrupt that Buatsi dominance and that Buatsi rhythm. You know, he needed something desperately in that ring last night. He needed to sort of get stuck in and disrupt him. Just throw anything, as Ben Whitaker was saying in the commentary. You know, throw anything, hit the arm, hit the hip, hit wherever you can hit. But you gotta just, as it was going, especially those championship rounds, where Azeez unfortunately the canvas was slippery in this fight, which was also a factor, and Buatsi slipped on it a little bit, but he didn't go down. His footing was better, but with Azeez, he went down. There were punches landed, but they didn't seem to be heavy knockdowns, but they were kind of light knockdowns, and you could see that as he's getting hit, he's slipping and falling. One of them, he almost fell flat on his face because of the canvas. And yeah, overall, it's pretty straightforward. The Buatsi, he just took the bull by the horns. He showed that he is a level above his good friend Dan Azeez. He showed that he's a level above, and he just made the fight his own and dominated. You know, just as simple as that. As talk now after, I saw an interview with Buatsi talking about how he'd preempting the Yard question and saying he's ready to fight Anthony Yard, and I for one, yeah, I'd love to see that one next. As far as Dan Azeez, I think Dan Azeez, he can still carry on boxing. I don't know how much improvement he can make, but tactically, he can make improvements, and you know, he's the type of guy that he does have talent, he does have toughness, grit, determination, and you know, he's a hard-working fighter, so he can come back and maybe do something. But as for Joshua Buatsi, I'd say he's got to, you know, go for fights like Yard or Smith, and then try and get at the winner of Bivol versus Beterbiev whenever that happens. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. Dominant performance by Joshua Buatsi, and a very clear-cut win. So let me know your thoughts, and until next time, we're over and out. MK.